I took a deep breath in front of the upscale French restaurant, La Maison d'Or. Tonight marked the occasion of the festive Christmas party, graciously hosted by my in-laws, George and Barbara Johnson. This year, I harbored hopes of finally forging a meaningful connection with Barbara. Encouraging myself with a whisper, "Treat it with confidence," I entered the grandiose setting of the restaurant. Upon my entrance, I was courteously greeted by a maitre d' named Peter, who represented the welcoming face of the establishment. "I'm Jessica Hansen, accompanying the Johnson family reservation," I announced confidently to Peter. Peter checked the reservation list, his expression turning to confusion. "I'm terribly sorry, but I am unable to locate your name under the Johnson reservation." "That's quite strange. I was explicitly meant to be here tonight, accompanied by my in-laws." "Oh, Jessica." Turning around, I was met with the sight of Barbara Johnson standing there, her face etched with a cold, unwelcoming smile. "I didn't actually think you would come. Didn't you read the memo I sent? It said this party was for family only. Anyone else is supposed to dine at the diner next door." Feeling my cheeks flush with heat, Barbara's intentions became crystal clear to me. Such a memo had never been sent, it was a fabrication. Her actions were a deliberate attempt to exclude and embarrass me in front of everyone. "Mom!" I heard Wesley's voice. He stood between Barbara and Peter. "Jessica is definitely coming in. She's my wife." "Wesley, you seem not to understand, but this is an upscale restaurant. It's not suitable for someone with a background like Jessica's." "What are you saying, Mom? Jessica is my wife. She's family. People like Jessica should dine across the street at the diner, and then she can meet you later at the hotel." I was at a loss for words. Ever since our wedding 3 years ago, Barbara had consistently treated me with coldness and, at times, outright hostility. She mocked my job as a public high school English teacher at coffee parties, excluded me from family photos, forgot to give me gifts, and now this. "Barbara," I said, my voice shaking but filled with resolve. "Is it really that hard to accept that I'm part of this family?" "Family? Oh, you're just married to Wesley. That doesn't make you our family member." "Oh, what's going on here?" A new voice made me turn around. A petite middle-aged woman stood there, elegantly dressed with strands of gray in her deep brown hair, and a sharp intelligence in her eyes. Peter's demeanor immediately changed as he recognized her, exclaiming, "Michelle! Is there an issue here?" Michelle inquired calmly. "This woman is attempting to intrude on our family party," Barbara stated haughtily. "And who might you be?" Michelle questioned. "I'm Barbara Johnson, Wesley's mother." "And who is this lady?" Michelle pointed at me. "I'm Jessica Hansen, Wesley's wife." "Jessica, I've been eagerly awaiting your arrival." "Huh?" Barbara's confusion was evident. "Who are you?" "I own this restaurant. And to say that Jessica is merely an acquaintance would be an understatement. She's practically our co-founder." Barbara's face lost all color as she processed the information. "Owner? Co-founder?" "Yes. Jessica is my relative. Her parents helped launch our restaurant, but Jessica herself has been a part of the soul of this place. She has been deeply involved in the launch of this restaurant since her college days." Barbara was visibly shaken, her mouth opening and closing as if to speak, but no words emerged. Michelle turned to Peter. "Is there a reason Mrs. Hansen's seat isn't ready? When Mr. Johnson made the reservation, he said it was family only." "I see. Well, please prepare a seat for Jessica immediately. At the best table. But this is supposed to be a family-only event." "Mrs. Johnson," Michelle said politely yet authoritatively. "Are you saying Jessica isn't family? She's your son's wife, isn't she?" Barbara grudgingly admitted me. As we entered the main dining room, Wesley's sister, Alexandra Owen, and her husband, Ethan, were seated at the table, along with George, my father-in-law. Alexandra was in her mid-30s, sporting a perfect blonde hairstyle and a designer brand dress, almost a younger version of her mother. "Hey, everyone," Wesley greeted cheerfully. There was a slight mix-up regarding whether Jessica had been included on the guest list, but we have clarified everything now, Wesley announced. George appeared momentarily confused but quickly recovered, standing to warmly grasp Jessica's hand. "Jessica, I'm glad you came. I hope we have a wonderful night." George was always kind. In stark contrast to his wife, he consistently welcomed me and showed genuine interest in my life. His demeanor often made him feel more like an actual father to me rather than merely a father-in-law. During dinner, Barbara began talking about the family's upcoming 50th anniversary gala dinner. It will be in the ballroom at the Four Seasons Hotel. We're inviting 350 guests. "That truly sounds fantastic," Wesley responded, his voice filled with anticipation. "Jessica and I are particularly excited about it," he added. Barbara slightly pursed her lips and turned her gaze towards me. "Yes, of course, you're invited too, Jessica. You are Wesley's partner, after all." I was thinking of ways to join the conversation. "If there's any way I can assist with the event, please don't hesitate to let me know. I have quite a bit of experience in event planning," I offered, hoping to contribute. Barbara nearly ignored me. "Of course, I will be heavily involved in planning everything with me. She really has a wonderful flair for these kinds of things," Barbara noted dismissively. "Actually, Jessica is quite knowledgeable about event planning," Wesley quickly chimed in, supporting me. "She helped launch this restaurant and organizes events at her school. And now, she's the one supporting our life." "What do you mean?" Alexandra interjected, a note of surprise in her voice. "Jessica covers most of our living expenses. She's using her teacher's salary and a small trust fund from her father to cover everything from our apartment rent to loans and living expenses. Actually, my company received investment last year because Jessica provided the initial funds," Wesley explained. Barbara's complexion turned noticeably pale. "She's the one supporting your entire lifestyle?" Barbara asked, a mix of disbelief and shock in her voice. "Yes, Mom," Wesley said confidently. "You've always looked down on Jessica. You said she wasn't good enough for me, that she didn't fit into our circle. But in reality, Jessica is the foundation of our life. I can pursue my dreams because of her support." I grasped my husband's hand firmly. This was the first occasion he had openly acknowledged my contributions to his family in such a public setting. But, Alexandra stuttered, trying to formulate a response. "She's just a public school teacher, right? How can she?" "I'm not just a teacher," I said quietly yet firmly. "I'm proud of my job. And the salary isn't as bad as you might think, especially with 10 years of experience." As we were enjoying our dessert, Michelle approached our table. "Jessica, I've prepared a special dessert for you. Do you remember your mother's recipe?" My eyes immediately lit up. "Lemon meringue pie?" "Yes. The chef made it especially for you." "You shared my mother's recipe with the chef?" Wesley asked, a hint of astonishment in his voice. "Yes, some time ago. When I last visited here with my mother, Michelle adored her lemon pie and requested if she could share the recipe with the chef," I explained. "Jessica's mother makes amazing pies," Michelle said. "Her recipe has become a special part of our menu." "What exactly did Jessica do?" Wesley asked, intrigued. "She's far too modest. When she was a college student, she designed our new brand identity. The old one was outdated and didn't attract customers. Jessica's design was young and fresh, and it completely transformed our reputation. It wasn't that big of a deal, I said, blushing slightly at the praise. On the contrary, Michelle continued. She convinced the chef to refresh the menu. Thanks to that, we earned our first Michelin star. The table fell silent momentarily. Barbara's expression was hard to read, but a flicker of something passed through her eyes. Why didn't you tell us? That's incredible, Wesley asked me. It never seemed like the right moment to bring it up. But why are you still teaching? Couldn't you have pursued a career with more ambition? George inquired, genuinely curious. I chose to be a teacher because it has always been my passion. While marketing was indeed stimulating, it simply cannot compare to the fulfillment I gain from spending time with children and aiding in their success throughout life, I explained sincerely. That is truly commendable. Investing in the futures of young people is an invaluable endeavor, George acknowledged, nodding in agreement. Barbara slowly raised her head. Jessica, I didn't know about your career. You should talk about it more. Perhaps Jessica thought you wouldn't be interested, Wesley said, his tone slightly ironic. As the conversation unfolded, it took a turn towards more personal topics, and the previously tense atmosphere began to relax gradually. Rather than the usual discussions about family business dynamics and the intricate web of social circles they navigated, the dialogue shifted towards more intimate and personal subjects. For the first time in what felt like ages, I experienced a sense of relief and could breathe more freely, feeling less on guard. Jessica, where do your parents live? George asked gently. My father passed away a few years ago, and my mother moved to Florida. She always wanted to live near the ocean. Oh, I see. I'm truly sorry to hear that. It's okay, really. He was a wonderful person. I have many wonderful memories of him. Wasn't your father a lawyer? Where was his office? Wesley asked. He had his office on Wall Street, specializing predominantly in corporate law, I explained. Barbara's eyebrows lifted in surprise. Wall Street, you say? Which firm was it? Hanson, Anderson, and Associates. Thomas Hanson was your father? The well-known corporate lawyer? Barbara's voice carried a tone of disbelief. Yes, he was incredibly humble and made it a point not to bring his work home. As a result, my mother and I seldom discussed his professional successes. Indeed. When we started dating, Jessica never mentioned her father. I later found out he had several dealings with executives at my company. I always wanted to be valued for my own achievements, not for my father's name. Barbara commented. I might have attended the same charity events as your father. He was always very sophisticated. Yes, that sounds like him. Despite his commitments to the social scene, he was deeply committed to helping those in genuine need, I confirmed, remembering my father's principles. Wesley, looking surprised, remarked. You rarely speak about your father. After he suddenly passed away from a heart attack at 58, it became difficult to speak about him. He was always so focused on his work that he neglected his health. That must have been incredibly tough, George empathized, his tone full of compassion. It was very tough, especially for my mother. They were college sweethearts. After his death, I realized how short life can be and started thinking about what's really important. I've always been passionate about education and liked working with children. Marketing was exciting, but it didn't fulfill my soul. Was your father also the founder of the Hanson Foundation? Yes. It was one of his life's works. It's aimed at providing educational opportunities for underprivileged children. Barbara picked up her wine glass, her demeanor a mix of contemplation and slight unease. However, despite the personal revelations and the somewhat warmer conversation, I never truly saw genuine warmth in Barbara's eyes toward me. Similarly, Alexandra had not fundamentally changed her attitude toward me either. They had simply altered their behavior upon learning that my father was the renowned lawyer, Thomas Hanson. In the car on the way home, Wesley held my hand reassuringly. "I think tonight went rather well. It seems like my mother is finally beginning to accept you." I looked out the window as I responded. "What she's beginning to accept isn't really me. It's the prestige associated with my father's status." "That's not true. Tonight, you showed your accomplishments at the restaurant, how you've been supporting our finances, and your passion and talent." But her attitude changed only after hearing my father's name. Wesley sighed deeply. "My mother just needs more time. She's just bound by old-fashioned views." I looked at my husband. I was grateful that he had stood by me so strongly. "I'm really glad you were on my side tonight." Wesley smiled warmly. "Of course. You're my wife. And honestly, you're the one making our current life possible. You've always supported my startup." Over the following months, I maintained a polite distance from the Johnson family for Wesley's sake. Though our relationship seemed to improve superficially, I could still sense the disdain hidden in Barbara and Alexandra's eyes. What I inherited from my father was not just his social standing. Just before his passing, he had handed me a box filled with old documents. "For when you need it," he had advised. At the time, I didn't understand what he meant. It turned out to be research materials for a major case my father had been working on involving a corporate group. The documents included records on how several companies avoided taxes and laundered money. Notably, there were detailed documents regarding the Johnson family's business and its related charitable organizations. For a while, I struggled with what to do with this information. The decision became clear as plans for the Johnson family's 50th anniversary began to take shape. Barbara and Alexandra included me outwardly, but in reality, all my ideas were ignored, and decisions were only communicated to me afterwards. After a meeting, I accidentally overheard a conversation between Alexandra and Barbara. "I wish Jessica would just give up and leave," Alexandra said. "She doesn't fit into our circle. Be patient. Wesley is still smitten with her, but time will solve this. We're gradually nudging him to choose us over her outdated family." I was hurt by their words, but I made a decision. The time had come for the truth to be revealed. I took my father's documents and went to confront Barbara and Alexandra directly at the Johnson estate. "What do you want?" Barbara asked coldly. Alexandra sat next to her mother, looking at me with contempt. "I know what you've been doing. Money laundering through charities, tax evasion, all of it." Barbara laughed. "How did you manage to get such evidence? You can't do anything. Besides, Wesley wouldn't believe it. He will choose his family over you. He won't choose the kind of family you're talking about. I'm giving you a chance to turn yourselves in. Get out." Alexandra shouted. "You can't do anything to us. We have power, connections. You're just a school teacher." As I was leaving, I heard Barbara's last words. "Let's crush her. I'll make Wesley divorce her." That night, I told Wesley everything. My father's documents, the evidence of fraud I had discovered, and the threats from Barbara and Alexandra. At first, Wesley couldn't believe it. "Mom? Alexandra? No, that can't be. Look at this evidence." I handed him the documents. "I don't think your father is involved, at least not actively." Wesley spent hours going through the documents. His face gradually turned pale. "This is real," he finally acknowledged. "What do you plan to do?" I gave them a choice, but they didn't listen. "Now, I want to know what you will do. Will we do the right thing, or—" "Of course, we'll do the right thing. But this will destroy the family." They never saw me as family from the start. I said quietly, "Your mom said today that she would crush me." Wesley hugged me. "I will protect you. No matter what. You are my only real family." 6 months later, Wesley and I were watching the news in our living room. The screen showed a breaking news alert about the Johnson family. Breaking news: businessman George Johnson's wife, Barbara Johnson, has been arrested by the FBI on charges of tax evasion and fraud involving millions of dollars. Mrs. Johnson is suspected of illegally diverting funds through a charity organization. Her daughter, Alexandra Owen, has also been arrested as an accomplice. Despite knowing this could happen, Wesley stared blankly at the TV. And soon, the Johnson family's reputation was shattered. George's company's stock prices plummeted, and social media was overflowing with posts about Barbara's past behavior as the queen of the social scene. She always looked down on others. "Barbara kicked my son out of a charity event because he wasn't wearing appropriate clothes. Alexandra always thought she was better than everyone else since school." I looked out the window, tasting the bitter victory. I hadn't wanted this outcome. I just wanted to be accepted as a family member. Alexandra's husband, Ethan, had filed for divorce and decided to take custody of their children. He had cooperated fully with the investigation and was granted immunity. George wasn't arrested but was removed from the board of directors and was under house arrest. Whether he truly didn't know about his wife and daughter's crimes or had simply turned a blind eye was unknown to anyone. On the day of the trial, I sat next to Wesley. He held my hand firmly. Barbara and Alexandra sat in the dock, their former glory nowhere in sight. Instead of designer brand dresses, they wore simple clothes. Barbara's face was stern, her eyes fixed on me. The verdict was delivered. Barbara received an 8-year prison sentence. Alexandra received a 5-year prison sentence. Additionally, they were ordered to return the ill-gotten funds. As we walked down the courthouse steps, Wesley looked at me resolutely. "I've decided. I'm done with my family home. I can't forgive what Mom and Alexandra did. And what they have done to you." He said that firmly. "Wesley, they are your family." "No, you are my family. The only true family I have. When they rejected you, they rejected me as well." As we left the courthouse, Wesley asked me, "Do you have any regrets?" I took a deep breath. I gave them a chance. A chance to turn themselves in and make amends honestly. But they chose arrogance. They threatened me and tried to destroy our marriage. "What about my father?" "I gave your father a chance to hear the truth. He claimed he didn't know everything. I want to believe that." I remembered my last conversation with George. He looked exhausted, expressing shame and regret over his wife and daughter's actions. I couldn't stop them. "And when you tried to become part of our family, I didn't protect you enough. I have divorced Barbara, and I do not intend to accept her back after she's released." A year later, my husband and I were leading a new life. Wesley's company was on track and performing well. I continued working as a teacher. We sometimes visited George. He lived in a small apartment and led a quiet life. He was always warm to me, but now that warmth included genuine respect. One day, while checking the mail, I found a letter from Barbara. "Jessica, I have made many mistakes. Rejecting you and failing to recognize your worth was one of my greatest errors. My time in prison has given me much to think about. I cannot justify my actions. I deeply regret not trying to understand you. I was blind to the love and support you provided to my son due to my prejudiced views. I do not seek forgiveness. I know I do not deserve it. I only hope that you and Wesley are happy. Barbara." I threw the letter away and did not respond. My relationship with my in-laws was irreparably broken. Wesley's phone rang. It was his father. After talking for a while, he hung up. Mom was supposed to live with Alexandra after being released, but it seems their relationship is also broken. Alexandra is blaming everything on Mom, Wesley said quietly. That's sad, I honestly replied. Dad said that Mom is finally starting to take responsibility for what she did. Wesley looked out the window. But I won't change my decision. To protect our new family. A few weeks later, a similar letter arrived from Alexandra. I did not respond to that one either. Words could not heal the wounds that remained. I was focused on building a new family with Wesley. A family based on love and respect. Healing from past wounds would take time, but we chose to move forward. There were no family photos from either side in our new home. Instead, there were photos of just the two of us and the memories we created together. Wesley stood beside me, his arm around my shoulder. A new beginning, he said. Yes. The start of our real family. We watched the rain together. Sometimes, the hardest choices in life are the most necessary. Our relationship had been tested but became stronger. And now, we were beginning to weave our own story, one not bound by anyone's expectations or prejudices.